There we go. A good weekend of college basketball we had. Men's
Very
and
good.
women's NCAA
Yep.
tournament. The Final Four and the Final Two. I think it's always nice to have two number ones playing each other.
Yeah, you don't usually get two of the top teams.
Nope,
They
you
definitely-
don't. Of course, I still cry my beer over my food.
Yeah. I would like to see them healthy versus UConn would have been interesting.
True. But we'll see what happens next year. But before we get to next year, how you guys doing?
Pretty good. How are you, sir?
Doing good.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to talk a little women's Final Four. Actually, Final Two, because we're just going to focus in on the final game there. So it looks like Caitlin Clark's career is about over as South Carolina goes ahead and marches right through that clean snow patch with big old footprints. So what do you guys think? Did you? I know you both saw the game, but what are your impressions? Go ahead, Sooner. Why don't you give me a little thought there?
Well, it was the first half, and it kind of went the way I thought. I mean, Kaylin was amazing in the first quarter. She showed her pure superstardom, and we got to see that. But South Carolina weathered the storm, and they just have 8 or 9 players that just can rotate in and out. They're just so deep, and the size also. Their rebounding just seemed like every time they missed, they'd get a rebound off of the board, and that kind of just wore down. And like they've done all year, they wore them down. We saw some greatness of Kaylin, but in the end, they're just really, it's their 4th year in the Final Four and two of the last 4 national championships, and they'll continue to roll. And I don't think Iowa will. Yeah, Iowa. I mean, it's the only time they've ever been in the Final Four the last 2 years. So well, at least, that coach. I don't know if ever, but I know that coach. She's been there like 25 years. So.
But that's kind of a really good question there, because when you think about it, the teams that you think about when you think about women's basketball are like UConn, USC, maybe a little Pat Summitt at Tennessee. If you're going back a little ways, you're really not thinking about Iowa.
No, Kim Mulkey, Baylor, and LSU, and then
LSU,
now South Carolina. You don't ever know. I mean, I looked it up this weekend. Coach has been there 23 years, and she only made the Final Four the last 2, and she'd only won like 2 other regular season Big Tens other than than Clark. I mean, she's been okay, but she's not been anything. Clark is, and she got lucky because she was playing 15 minutes from the college. So.
Yeah. Well, that becomes the question. What do you think, Kulik? The recruiting there in Iowa, they were lucky enough to get someone from South Des Moines to come to play. One of the greatest players. She's currently on the Mount Rushmore of college basketball. You have to say that. But are they going to be able to, as a result of this? I don't think of Iowa as the hotbed of basketball, so I don't know if they're going to be able to recruit in the Iowa area and get any quality out of it. But what do you think, Kulik?
Yeah, well, it's going to be difficult. So, they do get recruits. I mean, I think their roster has, I think about 10 different states represented. So they're not just all coming from Iowa, right? And they were getting some transfer portals that helped this season. Of course, that could have been part of the Caitlin Clark magic, right? I want to play with the best.
Exactly.
Yep. And so that might have had some to do with it. Maybe a lot to do with it. I think was Gabby Marshall a transfer?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. And then we've got they got Hannah Stolke, and she did well all tournament long, I think.
She did. She just
Yep.
kind of came up. She kind of came up short in this last game, but the game before that against LSU, she was huge.
Well,
Marshall's a
you
5-year Iowa. She's been at Iowa the whole time.
well, and you said it. You said the key word there, short, right? So the tallest girl that Iowa had on their team was 6'3" with Sharon Goodman, right?
Yeah.
You you want to look at South Carolina, Camila Cardozo, right? 6'7".
6'7". Yeah.
Aaliyah Boston, 6'5". So that just shows you how they got dominated on the boards. But I don't even think that's what ruined it for Iowa in the national title game. I think they were so used to controlling clock, controlling the flow of the motion, especially on offense, that whenever Caitlin Clark would come down with the ball, which was quite often when she came down the court with the ball, she thought she could shift everything on the chessboard how she usually does. But South Carolina's team had something else to say about that. Said, "No, I'm just going to steal from you right here." So I think Bree Hall did that a couple times. I mean, I think that's what ended up there, and I don't know. Maybe Iowa's coach is a good recruiter. Maybe they lucked out with Caitlin Clark, but you got to ask, before Caitlin Clark, where was Iowa basketball, right?
Well, exactly, and that's my point is, where were they before Caitlin Clark, and where will they be after Caitlin Clark? Are people going to want to come to Iowa and play? Big names, big high school names want to come to Iowa and play from outside of the state. Again, I don't know what the talent pool is in the state, but when you have a chance to go to Gino I keep saying his name wrong, Amaretta, whatever his name is, up there in UConn. What about going to LSU? You want to go to Dawn Staley, and where do you want to go? What do you want to do? You've got options, and so we'll see what the recruiting class is.
I don't think they'll be as good. I don't think so.
I agree with you. I don't think so either. They're losing the number one draft pick. They're losing a 35 point scorer a game,
and an amazing assist. Her game it kind of reminds me of the NBA game of Luka. She can score from anywhere, but she's also amazing passer. I mean that, and people don't even, but she is incredible passer. So that helped her. I mean, she helped push the ball and things. They're just not going to have that, and I expect them to not be anywhere close. Now, the South Carolina, the next star that probably for women's basketball is that Malaysia Fulwiley. She's a true freshman. She's from right in Columbia, South Carolina. So Dawn lucked out in there. But you could see how fast she was flying up and down the court behind. I mean, Staley said that she's the best she's ever seen, skill, just playmaking wise. And she'll even get to do more because she'll play more next year. But I read about her, and she played at a smaller school in Columbia, and she was a bench player in 7th grade on the varsity and started 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. And then she started 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and was just incredible. They won 4 of the 6 years the state championship. She looks like, I mean, and she'll be fun. She looks fun to watch. I mean, she's flying up and down the court. She'll be I think she'll be the next really, really elite.
Yeah, well, I think Cardoza was the one that did them all in, 17 rebounds. The shorter team had no chance. They were shooting from long range, short range, didn't matter. Cardoza was pulling the rebounds down and throwing it up the floor. South Carolina was just the better team, and they were the better team by I'd say a bunch. Okay, it wasn't even really all that close. Caitlin Clark in the first quarter kept it close with the 18 points. And then they kind of shut her down. Actually, I don't really want to say they shut her down. She just was trying to get other people involved, and they just weren't getting involved. It's one of those things from what I saw. Granted, and when she came out in the second half of the game, She started to throw up some of those classic logo threes. They weren't going. I just think she looked tired to me. She just looked worn out. I mean, the pressure of the season
Yeah.
might have gotten to her. Because the pressure of the season wasn't just winning basketball games. The pressure of the season was sellout games, people coming to see her, all of that stuff. It just looked like it all fell on her shoulders, and she just couldn't get up from under it because she was missing shots like the shots that she usually makes in these kind of contests. So,
Well, you got to think throughout the tournament, she was like the Zach Edey, where she didn't rest very often at all.
no, she did not. She did not. And I think, like I said, I think she was just mentally worn out. It was just a tough game for her. Once they got behind, it was over. You know, they don't have the kind of team that can, even with her, they don't have the type of team that can come back. They weren't going to control the boards. They weren't going to do anything amazing on the offensive end. So I thought after that, it was just kind of over. She scored 30. She had 8 assists. I mean, excuse me, 5 assists, 8 rebounds. And
She only had 12 in the last 3 quarters.
oh yeah, well,
I remember they jumped on them like 10-0 or something,
10
and that
zip.
kind of
Mhm.
that sort of
Mhm.
got them that lead, and then slowly, South Carolina. And I think by halftime it was maybe a 4-point game or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
So
Cordoso, what's her name? Cordozo. Yeah.
yeah, Cordoza.
Yeah, she's projected as a top 5 pick in the
Yeah,
WNBA.
yeah, she is. She is. But I'll tell you, and I know this is heresy for most people, but I'm not a real fan of the women's game. I'm just not. When you have a Cardoza in the game, she's 4, 5, 6 inches taller than the rest of the team. Typically, what gets you past that is athletic ability.
Mhm.
And these women just don't have the athletic ability to make that an equalizer. So when you've got somebody who is able to pull down 17 rebounds in a women's basketball game, that controls the game, especially
Yep.
when you're pulling down offensive rebounds. I mean, that
Oh,
just
yeah.
controls the game. And again, a lot of in a men's situation where you have the athleticism, you can avoid some of that. You can help out in some of those situations, but it's just difficult when they're just a big team. They shoot
Yep.
threes well. They can go inside when they need to, and you just don't have who else has that kind of
Yep.
capability. I
Because
mean,
Chloe Kitts, she had 11 points and 10 boards.
yeah,
And she was there too. And Cardozo's 17 rebounds and 15 points. I mean, that's just
it's just
gorgeous.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just crazy. So that going into that game, I think we knew that was kind of going to be the situation. So, but I got it. What do you think of the coaches? What do you think of the coaches? Dawn Staley.
She's definitely one of the elite. And she's going to, I think, continue to be that way.
Yeah, I don't see. I think she's in Amaretta's shoes. Gino's. I'll just use Gino instead of his last name. But I
Mhm.
think she's in his shoes. Everybody for years and years, 10, 12, 14 years straight, everybody wanted to go to UConn that was any good. And now I think anybody that's any good is going to want to go to South Carolina. So I think the
Yep.
dynasty situation is going to be, in their backyard from here on out. So,
Yep. 2 of the last 4, so they're doing pretty well.
yeah.
Well, and I think LSU will also be a destination.
True.
Yeah.
Well, Mulkey makes it a destination just based on
Yeah.
wardrobe.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's
You
true.
just want to go and see what she's going to wear next game. That's what I'm
That's
saying.
true. That's true.
And who's she going to mouth off to or something?
Yeah, yeah. Well, she handled her girls well this year. I think a little bit better than last year, to be honest with you. Um, she's she's matured, I think, as a coach. And they were, granted, last year they beat Iowa in the Final Four game, and it was a little bit of a revenge situation this year when Iowa beat them back, so to speak.
Yeah.
But Mulkey's a good coach. She recruits good players. Angel Reese. Angel Reese apparently was hurt in that game, and so maybe if she was at full strength, she might have done a little bit better. But she did some rebounding work again against this smaller the smaller Iowa team, and you got to be impressed with the fact that they were able to get to the Final Four this year again. When you're dealing with like 6'5", 6'6", Angel Reese, and you're dealing with 6'7", 6'8", Cardoza, it's tough,
Yep.
very tough.
Yeah.
Cool. So anything else about the women's game you want to talk about? What do we think about Caitlin Clark going to the pros next year?
I think her game looks like it will still be good. I don't know if she'll be as dominant, but the way she handles the ball and the way she can push it, I think she'll probably not score as much, but she may get more assists because she has better players that she can throw the ball to.
Exactly. I agree with that.
And she's not going to have to shoot it as much. It's because
Well,
of the talent.
in my opinion, she'll still be a good perimeter shot. I don't think
Yeah.
that's going to change.
I agree.
And she's probably going to go to the Indiana Fever at first pick.
Yes, first pick. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think she'll be a great perimeter shot. The sports commentators were talking about what she can work on at the next level. They named off a couple things, two things really that she can work on. One is trying to become more of an enforcer. Obviously she's going to have a lot of women that are a lot of women players that are taller than her, right?
Yes.
And so she's going to have to do what she can to become an enforcer. And then the other thing is controlling the momentum of the game as far as not getting turnovers. If you watching that game, Bree Hall, even the game before that, Angel Reese, they stole the ball from her a few times.
Yep.
And if she has that same thing, if she doesn't work on that in the pro league, then she's going to have to basically.
Agreed.
And that was last year that Iowa lost the championship too. So back-to-back years, they lost nationally. It was LSU and then South Carolina.
Yeah.
So Iowa.
Well, I'm thinking that part of the turnover issue is who she's playing with. I'm hoping when she gets to the big league, so to speak, she's playing with better players that'll actually catch and shoot. Actually help her out a little bit. But I agree with you. I did see a lot of frustration. I shouldn't say frustration. I did see a lot of sometimes players are too good for their team, and I did see some of that in the second half of that game because, granted, South Carolina changed up their defense a whole bunch, stifled her a little bit, but nobody stepped up. Nobody stepped up.
Yeah,
so.
I think her scoring will be, maybe around the 18 to 20, but her assist may go up 2, 3, 4 a game because I think she just has better players around her.
Yeah, and I think she will be more of a.
I think she'll get her triple doubles.
I just don't think she'll score because she's average. Isn't she average like 30 something a game?
Probably something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Or double doubles. I think she can do well on double doubles. Yeah.
I mean, 32 points a game, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists. So, I could see in the pro game being about 20 points, and she may be double digit assists, 11 or 12, and then the rebounds probably about the same. I just don't think she'll have to score as much, but she'll get more assists because of that.
Yeah. No, I agree that she's not going to be better than her team, as like she is right now in the college game, where she is better. She's a better player than her team is.
Just the round they just can't. She has so many good plays that sometimes they're just not able to make them. I made a lot of them and made her better, but the pros they won't mess those up as much.
Yeah. I totally agree. Totally agree. Awesome. Yeah, I think she'll be the number 1 pick. I think she'll go to the Fever, Indiana Fever, and I think she'll be a very good pro.
Very good.
So, anything else we got for this evening, gentlemen? Any shout outs you want to make to anyone? We'll make that start. We'll start that right about now.
Go ahead, Kulik.
Yeah, I'd like to make a shout out to the viewership of that NCAA Women's National Championship game. A few stats here that wowed me. 18.7 million average viewers. It peaked at about 24 million. Most watched basketball game, men's or women's, college or pro, since 2019. Most watched sporting events since 2019, excluding football and the Olympics. Those are some huge stats that the women's game has not seen before. So,
I'll just piggyback on that, Michael, real quick. The Final Four, Iowa, UConn, was the most watched game, like in hoops, supposedly ever or something. It was incredible. I mean, that's what they're claiming. It was something crazy like that. So,
well, but the bad news there is it only gets worse from here. So,
potentially,
I don't think it'll be. Yeah, I don't think without. Well, we're going to see what Clark does for the WNBA. I don't know if she'll increase. She probably will increase viewership some. I just don't know if the game can ever get that popular though.
Well, I guess we shall see. Who is your shout out for, Mr. Sinatron?
I'll just say, getting closer to the playoffs, the Mavericks seem to be going in the right direction. So I'll just say I think they're going in the right direction.
Is that all you got for the Mavs? Come on, a little more love come that way.
Well, I think it's going to be tough, but they definitely are in the right direction.
Awesome. Well, I have a shout out for, and this is hard for me to say because I generally have not been a big fan of Dawn Staley, but I have to say she has proven to be a class act over the last couple of days with the things that she has said about Miss Caitlin Clark and about her being so important to the women's game of basketball, not just that game, but the women's game itself. And I think she's right. I think when the Las Vegas team is moving its game from a 12,000 seat arena to a 20,000 seat arena, for the game that Caitlin Clark and the Fever come to town, I think that's just a testament of what Caitlin Clark has done and is also predicted to do for the WNBA. Now, I don't know how long that's going to last. I don't know how many people are going to continue to watch, but this proves that, and it's just like I'll change the path just a little bit. It's just like the Olympics. Nobody cares about the Olympics; they care about the individual story. And Caitlin Clark is a great individual story, and that's why people put eyeballs on that game because of Caitlin Clark. So we'll see what happens in as she goes to the pros. Maybe the pros get more eyeballs, but I think college will not, because it's one of those things in college. We value the teams more than the players, and it should be the players that get valued more. So, hoping for the best for Caitlin Clark. Who's your shout out to? Did you give one? I didn't even know. Did you give one? Oh, you did to the Mavericks. Wow. We'll talk about the Mavs and playoffs in the coming days. But for right now, I think the pundits are going to bed because it's a late one after the men's game tonight. So anyway, hope everybody's doing well. We are with Sports Page 20. Good night, Kulik. Good night, Tuner.
Good night.
Peace.